Okay, everyone managed to get their water bottles open, is drinking. Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Thompson. I'm the founder of Racquet. Welcome to PadelHaus. Woohoo! Woohoo! Today, it is a joy to be joined, thanks to our partners at FILA, Tishman Speyer, and many others, to welcome you onto our court, where we're going to have a fascinating discussion on the future of racket sports, which I don't know if you guys have heard, but it is the best time ever to be in a racket sport. Whether you are a pro athlete and you just won Wimbledon, like the woman sitting at our center, a huge round of applause for the most recent Grand Slam trophy lifter, or one of these gentlemen. Racket sports are having their moment. I am a lover, not a fighter. I think we should all get along. And so I have asked, in my capacity as founder of Racquet and somebody who sort of has their finger on the pulse, to figure out how to get the most interesting, innovative, and thoughtful and thought leader types in our world to come together and talk. So today's panel is going to be fast. We might have time for a Q&A at the end, but let me introduce each of the illustrious people on stage with me, starting with Barbora Krejcikova. Welcome. Barbora Krejcikova is a 2-time Grand Slam singles champion, 10-time Grand Slam doubles champion. She recently won the 2024 Wimbledon Championships, in addition to the 2021 French Open. We won't ask you which one you liked better, but I'm guessing it was Wimbledon, right? We're not in France, so you don't have to say that. Okay. She has won 7 singles and 17 doubles titles on the WTA Tour, and she has a career Golden Slam in doubles. A Golden Slam is when you have every single title and a gold medal, which she won in doubles at the 2020 Olympics. From the Czech Republic, please join me in welcoming Barbora Krejcikova.
Hello.
All right, we've got Latin America represented here. Born and raised in Mexico, Santiago Gomez grew up playing padel in Acapulco. Are you okay with me calling it padel or not paddle?
Paddle, same thing.
I feel like I want to make sure that I'm speaking correctly. I call it padel, which is what we're going to call it.
I call it paddle.
Oh, boy, we're already off on a bad start. All right, not only is this gentleman a restaurateur, if you've been lucky enough to go to Cosme here in New York, then you know what I'm talking about. It's incredible. He is also the founder of PadelHaus, the leading paddle operator of facilities in the United States with 3 locations in New York City, 11 total courts, and they are building in Nashville, Denver, and another one in Greenpoint. It is the booming sport. Welcome, Santi. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
To my left, Drummond Munro is co-founder of Fairgrounds, which is a public racket club opening pickleball and padel clubs in Canada. Thanks for joining us and representing my home country, Canada.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. And you are going to have 100 courts by the end of 2025, but also you're expanding into tennis, squash, and badminton, which we have so much to talk about because I feel like those are the unsung heroes of the racket sports.
Totally.
They are, right? 15 years of experience working at Herschel, Nike, Lululemon, and as the founder of Superette, you are now reimagining the modern racket club, which we have a lot to think about. Anyway, welcome, Drummond.
Thank you.
All the way on my left, the tall gentleman with the PingPod shirt is, you guessed it, Max Kogler, the CEO of PingPod and a founder of Cognito, Imaginate Consulting. He used to be the COO of Super Soccer Stars. You have all sorts of sports bona fides. Before that, I believe you were in banking. And you are probably, from a tech standpoint, way ahead of everyone probably in any racket sport, which is what we're going to talk especially with you about today. So welcome to Max from PingPod. Thank you all so much for being here. So we've got representation from all of the major racket sports, maybe minus squash and badminton. Pickleball, tennis, paddle. Let me start with you, Drummond. How do you feel like each of these sit in the current ecosystem of racket sports? Are these competitors? Are these disruptors? How do you feel in terms of what your sport viewpoint is?
I mean, we've stayed racket agnostic with the public racket club positioning, and despite our focus on pickleball and paddle, just because of the popularity over the last 5 years, like we are adding tennis, we are adding squash. We don't believe one can't coexist without the other, and really like why we're focusing on racket sports is their ability to bring community together, social connection in an increasingly digital world. So
yeah,
for us, we're happy with everyone.
And we know that racket sports create longevity. People live longer. And we all know how important, especially after the pandemic, it is for people to feel like they're part of something.
Yeah, Max and I were talking about that earlier. You know, he was giving me stats on table tennis as it relates to Parkinson's, and my mind was blown. So,
Oh, I have a follow-up question then for Max about table tennis and Parkinson's. But first, I want to ask Barbora, from a country the size of the Czech Republic, how is it possible that every other one of you is a Grand Slam champion?
Well, I'm being asked this for like just pretty much every interview that I do, and
I hope you have a good answer then.
not really. I mean, not really, because I don't really think there is an answer for that. I mean, Czech Republic has a huge history in tennis, and I mean, we had so many legends that we look up to, and I mean, as a country, we are big fighters, and I think, I mean, each of us of the girls that are there playing tennis right now has an individual story, and I mean, I don't really think there is a like one way how we got to the top.
Fair enough. And what's amazing about the Czech players is how very different all of you are. Like, Barbora Krejcikova does not play like Barbora Krejcikova, despite the fact that you have the same first name. But I do have to imagine your pipeline, the junior programming, court access. Can you talk a little bit about how, for good or bad, but it seems like for good, the system must be working in a way that is putting so many Czech players into contention, right?
Well, I think in Czech Republic, I think if you have a girl, if the girl is born in a family, I think that I mean the biggest sport that is there is the tennis. I think most of the
bigger than basketball, bigger than soccer, bigger than
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, because also recently, I mean, from what I know, we've been having so many great tennis players.
Yeah.
In the country, and I mean, so many Grand Slam winners. I think the tennis, especially for the girls, is very popular, and that also why I think we have so many girls that are playing and that are on top. And come back to your question, I mean, pretty much every city that we have in Czech Republic has some kind of a tennis court, maybe one, maybe two.
Wow, yeah.
It's usually a clay court. I mean, all of us, we grew up on a clay court. I mean, the system is working. We have many tournaments since like little ages. We have like a mini tennis right now that when I was younger I didn't play, but it's very popular right now. We have baby tennis, which is like under 10.
Do they play on a smaller court?
No, we've been actually playing on a bigger, like on a normal
As the
court.
parent of a 10-year-old who's still playing baby tennis, maybe we have something to learn from you guys.
But it was like 20 years ago.
Okay, fair enough.
When I was growing up,
Right.
and I mean, then we had categories under 12, 14, then under 18, and then the adults. And I mean, we've been having many tournaments. Like we had many different categories, and we played everywhere singles and doubles. So I mean, we had a lot matches that we were able to play.
So you're
and
just match tough.
we were kind of like
Kind of, yeah.
we were kind of like competing against each other and trying to raise the level of each other, and I think it was very healthy.
Clearly. No, it's clearly working. I also have a pickleball question, but I'm going to come back to it. So you can listen. You can get to know your other panelists to feel like how much you might want to offend them or not offend them. But after I ask this.
I don't want to offend anybody.
Okay, I figured you
we
did.
were already talking about it before we got on.
But if a fight breaks out in this court, it would be a first. Santi, you're from the birthplace of paddle. Little known fact, paddle is from Acapulco.
Yeah, it was invented in Acapulco in 1969. And the funny thing is, it was invented by a guy that didn't have enough space for a tennis court, and he lived in a cliff by the ocean.
Which, if anybody has been to Acapulco, most of it is cliffs.
It is cliffs, and then his house was by the ocean. So in order for the balls not to go to the water, he put walls on the side, and that's how the sport was invented.
And I have to imagine all of the people who loved visiting Acapulco, especially people from Europe, brought it back. Because most people associate the sport with a European-centric playing, or at least they kind of did up until very recently. Would you say that's true?
So what happened is in 1971, there was a prince of Spain that went to Mexico, played the sport, and then took it to Marbella and opened the first padel club in Spain. And then this Mexican guy that opened the first court had an ex-Argentinian wife, and then the ex-wife took it to Argentina, so Argentinians think it's an Argentinian sport.
Cool. So I think what we're learning here is keep it close, keep it in the family, and then have lots of international friends. Padel is exploding right now in America specifically. It seems like Miami, we obviously have a huge number of facilities being constructed, both north of the border and also here in the city. PadelHaus has huge ambitions. Talk to us about what you see as the next sort of stage of growth, given that pickleball really took a lot of the air, but now it seems like maybe it's actually paddle. And yes, I will not apologize for calling these two things two different pronunciations the whole time. I'm going to settle on one probably by the end.
Yeah, so I think America hadn't seen padel before, but the sport has been growing elsewhere. In Europe, for example, it's been growing for many years, not only Spain, France, Italy, the UK, Middle East, Dubai, Qatar, Australia. Tennis Australia owns all of the paddle clubs and the Paddle Federation in Australia. South Africa, Latin America is huge. And then the US and Canada are the last two regions where the sport had not grown that much. Today in the US, there are around 400 courts only. And then places like Spain has 20,000 courts. Sweden has 4,000 courts. The amount of courts per million people in the US is 0.5x. The amount of courts per million people in Spain is 350.
Oh my God.
So,
and do you think that's realistic for a growth trajectory? Maybe not Spain, but maybe something more like Scandinavia, where it becomes way more of a popular. I mean, it seems like it's on the precipice of a pretty major boom. Is that what you're seeing from a business and recreational perspective?
Actually, in Scandinavia, it grew too fast. Like this 4,000 courts that I'm talking about, they built them in the period of 2 years during COVID. So then the supply grew much faster than what the demand could hold. So there was a point where a lot of padel clubs started closing. There was a first generation, second generation, third generation of padel owners of the same facility. And in the US, I think there's only been one club that's been sold. So all of the other ones are on their first generation of owners.
Oh, interesting.
And then when you were comparing to pickleball, in order for the sport to qualify as an Olympic sport, which is soon to happen, to probably both padel and pickleball, one of the requirements is to have 75 federations in the world and be played in 5 continents. Padel has 72 federations today, and pickleball has 14. So
okay, interesting. So much more likely to see padel in the Olympics sooner than pickleball, I would imagine. Drummond, I'm not going to ask you to defend or support that, but that is something we will come back to with pickleball, especially because I want to ask Max, who is the CEO of PingPod. First of all, the technology that you all are using is something that I think every other one of these sports, and probably some other ones we aren't talking about, could be using. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a landscape overview of the PingPod model before we get into more specific like sports questions about table tennis?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to state for the record, I too play baby tennis. But no, just going back a little bit to how we're set up. So PingPod was the first part of the company that we built around table tennis, and we built it that in a way so that we would build a network of autonomous table tennis pods. The idea was to make table tennis more accessible to people, build smaller locations all over the place, and allow people to book it with an app very, very easily and have nobody actually working there. So
yeah, for those of you who have ever seen a PingPod in New York City, there are more locations outside of New York.
Yeah, so we have 20 PingPod locations. 9 of those are in New York City.
It's
11 outside.
Completely frictionless experience. You book it online, the door opens with your app. You don't see a human because you just go to your table.
I mean, you see other people play.
You see other people playing in a community way, but
Yeah.
you don't have to interface with a
That's right.
person
There's no
opening a
front
schedule
desk.
book. It's easy, and I think it's very modern.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the idea. And, Santi was bringing up Padel was invented in 1969. Is that what you said? I think pickleball, 1964. Table tennis, 1880.
Is table tennis older than tennis?
No. tennis is like 13th century, depending on.
Well, that's jeu de
depending on-
paume, no?
Yeah,
I mean, if we want to
depending
get
on,
into semantics.
what,
of-
what you call
yeah,
tennis.
okay, fair.
Uh,
Baby
but-
tennis, as we call it.
That's right, baby tennis, which is what I play. But so table tennis has been around for a while, and if you look at the number of how many people are actually actively playing the sport, tennis is about 18 million people. Depending also which stats you trust.
I mean, the one I trust says 36, but I won't fact check you.
Fair
on the
enough. Fair enough.
Panel.
I got those numbers from ChatGPT, so maybe you can trust them or not.
Did you get it from the big pickleball lobby? Is that why?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
16 million in table tennis and 14 million in pickleball.
Huh.
And of course, pickleball has been increasing much more dramatically. But table tennis has been around for a long time, and it's been a little bit bifurcated. Either it's been sort of a place where people go in a dungeon somewhere and they take it seriously, or it's been like a party game, right? Beer pong and fraternities and all of that.
Barbora, do you have beer pong in the Czech Republic?
Baby beer pong.
I think we don't have anything like that.
At the next Racquet House, we'll make sure after you're done competing, we'll teach you about beer pong.
Is it an
It's
Olympic
great.
sport?
Okay.
It's going to be an Olympic sport. We just need to have 75 federations.
Yeah, we need more federations, I think.
That's right.
Okay, we'll work on that. So, our idea was there's a lot of people playing table tennis or ping pong, but they're either connecting it with partying or they're connecting it with like having to be super serious about it. And our idea was to basically build locations that are closer to everybody in someone's neighborhood, make it super accessible, not have anybody work there, allowed us to get into places like with frontage where people can look in and actually see it,
Yeah.
and ultimately be open 24 hours. And so we did two things. We decreased the labor cost and we increased capacity. So that made the model work. And now we have 20 locations. But of course, like the front door to our locations is the app. The
Yeah.
technology had to be super, super frictionless.
And do you see this as something that other sports can use? I do. I hope they do.
100%. So what we did, just to give you sort of a little bit of context, so PingPod is one part of our company. The other part is what we call Pod Play. And Pod Play is essentially the technology that we built for PingPod. We extracted it out, we white labeled the technology, and now we're licensing it to pickleball places, padel places, tennis places, hopefully soon,
Hopefully soon.
squash and so forth. And so, all of this frictionless technology that we built for us, now other people can use. And maybe I should add one more thing, which is we wanted to bring table tennis into the 21st century, which meant that not only do we want to have frictionless booking, but also have features like instant replay,
Yeah.
digital scoreboards,
Totally.
where you can record your scores and ultimately, press a button if you want to get a replay. And all of these things are super fun for other racket sports too,
Listen,
not just racket sports.
When I play tennis, I would like to look like Barbora Krejcikova, and I don't. But I can get a replay of
And then-
myself hitting a down the line backhand to win a major point, and that feels cool.
100%, or we can use AI and superimpose.
You might need to use
Barbora.
AI to make me look like more like her game. But yes, I think people like
Yeah.
that. They want to feel like they're the protagonist, right? Drummond, let me ask you, and then your pickleball question's coming. Don't worry. You guys are pickle and padel now, but you have ambitions. First of all, how do those play nicely together? I assume they do because everyone's Canadian, and we Canadians are nice people.
Yeah, everyone's playing nice, but to Santi's point, like most Canadians still don't know what paddle is, and so we're really trying to bring the sport there. And pickleball's a great gateway sport to
Yeah.
both tennis and paddle, and I think tennis community has turned their nose up a little bit at pickleball, but we're finding everyone's playing well together.
And so does that give you confidence to get into the badmintons and the squash? Because that's pretty ambitious. I've heard a lot of people who want to build more tennis clubs, more padel clubs, more
Yeah.
table tennis clubs. I have not heard, let's bring back badminton.
So we're not smashing it all together right away.
Yes.
And the whole idea of Fairgrounds was to democratize access to racket sports.
Well, the
So,
name
right,
itself feels very
yeah,
inviting.
I mean, if you look at the spectrum. There's public amenities on one side and private clubs on the other, and there's not a lot in the middle. And so for the most part, people don't have access to these sports, or they're essentially non-existent. So the middle to us is someone willing to pay a little bit of money for a great experience, and that's hard to do with tennis. That's hard to do with paddle.
Yeah.
That's hard to do with pickleball. I think finding the right communities that want badminton, that want squash. Squash is in the Olympics in 2028.
I know a lot of them.
Yeah.
Actually.
So, yeah, we think there's a great concept that just celebrates all of them.
And these sports, again, they're cooperative, they're collaborative, and you think one can sort of blend into the other.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so Barbora, I saw a video of you last night playing pickleball. I too was recently made to play pickleball. Fun anecdote, I thought my mother-in-law was needing to go to the doctor a lot, so much so that I started asking her questions about whether or not she had a serious illness. And then she confessed to me that, in fact, she had joined a pickleball league, but she didn't want to tell me because I have a tennis media company. She was like, I have some terrible news. And I was like, oh no, are you dying? She said, no, I just took up pickleball. So I said, maybe I should relax my stance and open my heart to this sport. How was your experience playing pickleball? Did you have any snobbishness like I did being a tennis player? And what did you think? Yeah.
Well, actually, it was very interesting. It was nice. I like to try to do new things. It's difficult for me because I don't have much time to do new things. So, with all the traveling and with all the playing that I'm doing, but last night was very nice. I played pickleball for the first time. I was surprised with the ball, with the racket. It's much different than the tennis racket.
Define surprise. Surprise in a good way, or surprised in a this doesn't feel like anything way, or what do you mean?
No, in a good way. As I said, like I like to try new things, and I don't mind trying new sports. And
it was you and Taylor Fritz playing against Novak Djokovic.
I was playing with Novak, and we were playing against Yannick and Kelly Jo.
And one of the world's best pickleball players. Did you be honest? Did you think if I got really good at this, I could crush everyone?
Well,
you seem like a modest person, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but a little bit.
I don't know, but it was a lot. The game the game that we played was about the volleying.
Got it.
So we did like a volleying competition, and it's called the dingle, something like that.
Uh-huh.
We don't really play it in Czech Republic, but
no, I can't imagine you do. You call it baby tennis.
But I won yesterday.
Yes. See, are we surprised?
We won. We were kind of like losing all the time, but we won the very last point, which is obviously the most important one.
In my book, if you win the last point, you win.
So we won, and I got a very, very nice trophy with the Statue of Liberty. So it's
for winning the last point.
It's a very good start to the U.S. Open.
I have a feeling we're going to have to let you go back to the U.S. Open and do your training and your preparation for Grand Slams in a minute. So I just want to ask you one last question before we lose you. You are coming at this. Obviously, we represent, Max is originally from Austria, but is operating his company in North America. We've got all of North America represented on this panel. As the non-North American, as a European, how much of are these other sports penetrating into your viewpoint? Are people in the Czech Republic and other places in Eastern Europe playing paddle? Are they playing pickleball? Are they playing table tennis? I would imagine somewhat.
Well, they definitely playing the table tennis.
Yes.
They, most recently, I think they're also playing paddle.
Yeah.
We have, I think, a lot of paddle tennis, paddle courts. To be honest, I never played because the glass for me is just like very distracting. It's just different than the tennis. So
yeah,
the glass is like squash. We have squash too, and the glass is a disaster for me. So I would play just like a regular tennis rally if I ever played it. So
Well, I think we just maybe figured out some retirement plans, which is you're going to be the world's most terrifying pickleball player. Once you're done, you're going to win the Grand Slam of pickleballs.
We will see. We will see. I'm open. I'm open to it. Why not?
I love that attitude. I think we have to say goodbye to you because you are going to go train. Can I ask you gentlemen to stay around for a little bit longer? Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Barbora Krejcikova, everybody,
you.
our most recent Grand Slam champion.
Thank
Good luck these next 2 weeks. We are always rooting for you. You're a threat in doubles and singles. A pleasure
Thank
to
you.
see you. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right. While I have these gentlemen, I'm going to move myself to Barbora's seat.
Thank you. Very nice meeting you. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Very nice meeting you. Good luck. Very much. Enjoy. Enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, last question for everybody, which is I want to get back to sort of the how do we play nicely together question, because there's so much that's made between tennis and these other racket sports. What are things that your sport, and I'm having you here, Drummond, not as just the representative of pickleball or Canada, but you're going to have to speak for pickleball just because we have table tennis, and padel. What do you think your sport can learn, or where are you looking for innovation from these other sports so that you can make better your offering to the public?
Pickleball is easy because we can build courts more effectively, charge a lower price point. But as it relates to growing the other sports or mass participation, we're actually using it as a way to introduce people to paddle and introduce people to other sports. So we'll do days where we'll have free paddle courts for the pickleball community and get
Cool.
them in. And we're finding most people who experience it once are totally hooked. So we're super bullish on the growth of paddle as well. I think it just needs to get to a point where there's enough accessibility, enough supply, and we're approaching it in a more North American centric way.
Got it.
Someone described the two sports as pickleball is NASCAR and paddle is Formula One. And I think it's really interesting because pickleball is a uniquely North American phenomenon. Like you go to Europe, outside of Ireland and the UK, no one's heard of it.
Right.
But Formula One has this cultural relevancy. It's sexy, like
I
it's
think we
coming.
just need a 6-season documentary special about paddle, and then it's sold, right?
Completely. I mean, I'm sold.
I'm
So,
sold already. Do you think that's accurate, Santi? Is it one is the NASCAR and one is the F1?
Yeah, I've heard that analogy before, and I think price point wise, it seems like it. Accessibility as well, and yes, I think the good thing about a pickleball court, a pickleball club, is that you can build it anywhere. Whereas a paddle club, you need ceiling heights. A court is slightly bigger than a pickleball court, and in pickleball, people don't lob the ball,
Yeah.
so you don't need to have high ceilings. Whereas in paddle, even more than tennis, the lob is very important. So all indoor facilities need to have at least 25 feet.
I will say the paddle houses I have been to are gorgeous. The design aesthetic, your background in hospitality, how you've created a space that feels very elevated but also warm for people to step into is it's a kudos, because it's a hard combination, and it's quite distinct from what I've seen in Europe or Mexico, both of which were just much more sort of mainstreamed alongside a tennis court. How important was it for you, especially in an emerging sport in this city, to sort of communicate what you wanted to do with the brand in terms of, I mean, there's a lot of questions in here, but like, how intentional was it for you to sort of create this elevated experience around paddle to connote what brand and what you wanted to do with it?
So there's a few things about it. A is that real estate in New York is not cheap. So in order to get to that, you need to achieve a high price point, right? In order to achieve a high price point, you also need to achieve a high value. So when people are paying a high price, but they get a good product back, they don't feel like it's an expensive thing. They feel like it's a cheap, what you're getting back versus what you're paying.
Right.
So in order to get to that, you also need to have top-notch facilities, which is what we have.
Yeah, they're unbelievable.
My background in hospitality also plays along in this question, because the way I see my business is not a sports club, it's a hospitality
Yeah.
play, right? So we're offering a service, we're offering a certain quality of facility that you only find in hotels, high-end restaurants, similar to Cosme.
And it's interesting, Max, because one of the things you were talking about was the lack of friction in the experience. And I think one thing I've heard throughout this discussion is this idea of community. And I learned really to play table tennis when I lived in China, where everybody was just playing on their lunch break, and it was all ages. And then in the States, for the most part, it was a lot of people, you know, in a rec room or in a very high-end competitive, as you said, it was totally bifurcated. And I really appreciate the fact that your brand is attempting to really unite this community. Do you feel like that is something other sports could take a page out of?
Yeah, 100%. I think part of the reason, part of the thing that we want to do is eliminate friction, so make it easier, but also make it more accessible, which is not exactly the same thing.
No.
Because accessibility means that it's close to you. You don't have to have it to be a destination, right? It could be on every block or on multiple blocks. And by making it autonomous and taking labor out and making it open, you know, just like you have your premium proposition to create value for the customer, we, by doing that, can make it more accessible, can actually make it cheaper.
Yeah.
Because we're open longer and we don't have to pay for as much labor.
Yeah, it strikes me that you're getting a lot of families and a lot of younger people.
Absolutely.
And that's a pipeline.
Right. And the idea is that we use technology, and we have this saying internally, which is, so we want to use the phone to put down your phone.
Huh.
Right? So the technology should just be the entry point, but once you're in the space, you put it down and you interact in the real world, right? And we've all been craving for like real world interaction. I mean, I think the world has naturally been moving more into, you know, work from home, social media. People are getting polarized, right? Social media is dragging people to the fringes. And what we want to do is like, look, technology is a cool thing, but to get into the same space and create community, and whether it's a table tennis community or a padel community or a pickleball community, they all interact off the same thing, which is like you're on the court and you're having fun and you're enjoying the moment and you're doing something healthy and good. And I think the world has been craving for that kind of reunitedness.
Agreed. Yeah,
right?
totally.
And especially since the pandemic. And I think so, you know, to answer your first question, all of these sports have this in common, and that's why all of them are growing.
Yes. It definitely feels like that is 100% the case. Do you agree with that, Drummond, in terms of...
Yeah, completely.
It feels like that, to me, is where we all have this enormous opportunity, especially because we're involved in sports where you don't need a team of 8 to 10 people. You don't need a giant amount of space. I mean, tennis is the one that takes the most space, and somehow we've managed to put a court here in Rockefeller Center. And I do think, like, the community aspect of it, it's clear in all of your answers. And, yeah, Santi, do you have... in terms of where you go next with your brand, serving that community, what's on the horizon for you guys?
So for us, compared to these two gentlemen, I think the community is even more important for us because our sport is only played doubles. Ping pong.
Yeah, you're right.
Ping pong, pickleball, you can play singles. For us, that doesn't exist. So community is super important. The way people feel when they come to the club, it's not just opening courts in the middle of a warehouse, it's creating an environment where people want to go, socialize, hang out, stay.
Which is to your point about hospitality, why it feels so important to create a space that feels like they can do that, right?
Correct. And given the cost of a padel court, I don't think it's realistic to think that they're going to open public courts of padel in the parks, whereas that happens with pickleball. I'm not sure about
table tennis
it
as well.
happens. Table
Yeah.
tennis, perhaps there's public courts.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's realistic. A padel court is somewhere between 40 and 60K.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's realistic to think that they're going to be opening in multiple courts in public parks. So because of that, it's super important to create a community aspect in our projects.
I want to build off something Drummond said in terms of connecting these sports together and how, you know, you're thinking about it in a really sequenced way. Because when I first met you, I forget how many years ago it was, but it was right after you started padel.
I think it was like the week before we opened the first
Yes.
location. That was probably 3 years ago.
I think I just like randomly showed up also.
Correct.
Thanks for being nice about that, by the way. One of the things I remember thinking is you have two gating mechanisms. Number one, you're bringing a sport that people are unfamiliar with to a new place. And number two, you're going to need these people to immediately find other people to play with to your point about doubles. And you've done both of those things through, I would imagine, a lot of intentionality, right?
I think a lot of it has to do with technology as well. Through technology, people can find other players much easier besides the app that we have, but there's multiple apps for sports that make people connect before going to the court. So I think, yes, absolutely, it's super important.
Drummond, I want to end with you because you're my favorite, because you're from my same country. What are you looking at horizon-wise? You have such ambitious plans. What are your sort of top priorities as you kind of both educate the market about some of these different sports, maybe import some of the different, more maybe American or Mexican-centric kind of cultures? Like, what gets you the most excited, and what's like the next piece of this puzzle that you're putting together?
You know, I don't know if it's totally sequenced like that, but I mean, our ultimate goal is greater participation and greater accessibility. And I think I'm really excited to watch paddle grow in North America. You know, Canada's 2 to 3 years behind the U.S. in pickleball, so we're just seeing the craze right now, and people are losing it. So it's a good thing. And we're really excited to see like how tennis and some of these ancillary racket sports, and only ancillary just based on what everyone's talking about right now, pickleball and paddle, but tennis is always at the forefront of culture, and I think badminton and squash and have a place in this, and it's not going to be all smashed together, but right place, right community, and I think it can all work.
Great. I just want us to end by chanting, tennis is the best. Just to make sure that we all have the hierarchy. Just kidding. Thank you guys so much.
We all come from tennis, so we also love it.
Tennis is the best, but also I am thrilled that everybody has the attitude that these things can all, rising tide, rising boats. Thank you to all of my panelists. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Caitlin.
What a great variety of voices. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's go have a cocktail.